How is it going, Retro people? My name is Brad, this is Retro Style Spotlight, and this is your news, notes, history, and retro games to play for the week of January 10th, 2017. Last week's tutorial was all about how you can get your big box install to look like ours with the Critical Zone City Hunter theme. There is room for customization as well, but if you've been dying to get your big box looking like the demos, then this is your answer. In ROM hacking and translation news, I love JRPGs, and it's driven my love of Japanese culture. But learning Japanese is so much more of an arduous task that I don't have time for. While I understand a decent amount of it now, that doesn't help me play games like Xak, the Art of Visual Stage, and Xak, Xak English Translation group Dynamic Designs has done it again, and has brought a more obscure JRPG into English. Similar to Ys and Terranigma, this version of the game is a polished version compared to the PC 8801, PC 9801, Sharp X68000, PC Engine, and MSX2 counterparts. I also love how it's an obscure JRPG, but is literally available on 6 consoles and PCs. That's alright. It's shocking that even despite its proliferation into other systems, and other systems that have English translations of their own, that this was never done previously. Featuring top-down action-based combat with traditional RPG elements, the game was ahead of its time upon its original release in 1989 and updated for the Super Famicom. Check out the Dynamic Designs website below for info and to download the patches. So I have been on the hunt for an emulation handheld that is free from a closed source system like my PS Vita. Even then, there's still something about physical handheld hardware that plays good old cartridges, and that's where the Super Retro Boy comes into play. 3 handhelds in one, this plays Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advanced cartridges with rechargeable batteries, a 10-hour lifespan, a well-lit and quality screen, and thankfully a 4x3 screen. This is looking to be a great alternative for those who don't want to cobble together a modded Game Boy Advanced with several different parts, or for those of you who want to step away from an emulation handheld from time to time. Shown off at this year's CES 2017, it was awarded for the best gaming gear this year, retailing for about $80 USD and estimated to be available August of this year. I am quite curious. The design seems to be mostly the same, except for the 6 total face buttons instead of 4 like on a regular Game Boy Color. I suspect that is due to missing the GBA, L, and R buttons, so I wonder if that will affect games that use them heavily at all. Being able to multitask different fingers like that can be essential to a lot of games. I am curious to see if this will be compatible with GBA flashcards as well. So I'm still on the lookout for a badass emulation handheld, probably powered by Android with a built-in controller design. For using real cartridges, however, or without designing something that could end up being a lot more than $80, this might fill an aftermarket handheld void. The console space is getting aftermarket consoles galore, but handhelds seem to be getting shafted. Until now. I knew it was a matter of time, and guess what? It's happened. NES Classic has finally been fully hacked, and you can now add new games to it via a USB cable. Gigantic warning though, this has a potential to brick your NES Classic, as with most modifications done to console software. So if you're not comfortable doing this to your own NES Classic, don't. With that PSA out of the way, separate hackers in Japan and Russia have figured out soft mod solutions to adding new games to the NES Classic. This means that you don't have to open up your NES Classic and hard mod it if you don't want to. I'm not going to go through all the steps, as that would take some time and could be a video of its own. But the solution won't work until you've created a save file in the Super Mario Bros. First slot. After that, it requires being hooked up to your PC, being booted into a special mode, copying the internal data, then injecting ROMs into the operating system. You can add all the art and extra files just like the other games on the NES Classic, and once you've gotten it the way you want, you're good to go. Once you've repackaged the kernel, you then must reflash the NES Classic, and voila, you now have much more than 30 games. There is a slight unknown about the compatibility, as the emulator on board may have been written to only emulate as far as the console's 30 games. By default, more games should work, but NES games that use complex mappers or things that Nintendo didn't code in themselves could fall apart. There is also another unknown to how large the internal storage of the device is, or how many games the official UI will accommodate, but there have been reports of users adding in another 30 games and it performing like it normally should. Considering this is just a system on a chip mini computer inside this thing, similar to a Raspberry Pi, it was only a matter of time, and I will be interested in seeing what else modders and hackers can do to this thing. I wonder if this could be hacked to play real carts with an FPGA board addition. Now it's time for Retro Remix Song of the Week, and this week, wow, lots of people worked on this. From Sonic CD, this remix is entitled Time Traveler's Delight off the OCR album Sonic CD Temporal Duality, and it's a hip-hop opus. Speaking of all those people, it was remixed by Begoma, Brother Dom, C7, DG Valentine, Metafist, Sir Jordanius, Superior X, and The Oracle, all collectively known as Overclocked Assembled. And I apologize if I mispronounced any of those names. Grab the album below and enjoy the Sonic CD opus.
Come follow us. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, to the whole world right now.
Let's turn it up and get down.
Come on,
North, south,
east, west. Let me see you bob your heads.
yo, Metafist, turn it up and get down.
I remember where I come from, the same spot where the snare drum rocks. Feel it in my blood, not ripping silly thugs, keeping it 100. My stock staying fully plugged, probably cause I'm fully invested in my peak interest. Objects at rest remain so, up until the force of meta is felt. Moving at the speed of mics, recite text ahead of my time, but never ahead of myself. Don't you know time is one big loop? You can run a Mobius strip around two troops. You can stay ahead of the curve and still grip roots. So you do you, even if it's old school. My kicks grip enhance the foot.
This month in 2003, Dynasty Warriors 3 Xtreme Legends was released to the US market. I remember playing this game a lot on the original Xbox, and also, wow. I had a general limit of 15 years or so for games that could make it on this segment, and now that we're in 2017, games from 2003 are making me feel old.
Look, I can't control the cat.
Yes, you can. Tape in a plastic bag, duh! Dynasty Warriors 3 is a hack-and-slash video game developed by Omega Force and published by Koei. It is third in the Dynasty Warriors series in North America, and the second in the Shin Sengoku Musou series in Japan. It is a spin-off from the video game Romance of the Three Kingdoms and based around a series of books by the same name. It contains a number of fictional and non-fictional elements from the same era in Chinese history that Romance of the Three Kingdoms is set, but follows the main events of part of the story, which is to unify China under the single rule of a kingdom. Dynasty Warriors 3 was the first in the series to introduce a two-player mode and numerous other improvements over Dynasty Warriors 2. New stages, characters, weapons, attacks, and music are introduced, providing a completely new experience to a player that has played Dynasty Warriors 2 before. The gameplay engine and the graphics engine have also been updated, providing higher quality environments, textures, and general overall graphics. Only one expansion was released for the game, Dynasty Warriors 3 Xtreme Legends, and it was the first in the Xtreme Legends subseries. There are also dozens and dozens of spin-offs, several sequels, and what have you for what is now collectively known as the Musou series or Musou type of games. Even going so far as to getting Dragon Warrior and Legend of Zelda versions of Musou games. If you are a patron that pledged to be a part of our Patreon campaign and are watching this early, then thank you very much. For those of you who pledged at the producer level role, your names are now on screen. If you are interested in seeing your name as a part of Retro Style Spotlight, the tutorials, and have it be inside of the Launchbox app, then head on over to our Patreon link in the description below. At just $2 a month, you can see content like RSS early, and at higher tiers you start to unlock things like exclusive Discord server access, producer credits, and a personal hangout with the Launchbox team. Any dollar amount anyone pledges to our campaign is helping us create a better product. So that was Retro Style Spotlight for the week of January 10th, 2017. All of the relevant links to everything you heard in this edition of RSS will be in the description below. Remember, you can sign up for a Launchbox Forum account, and if Launchbox has given you a beautiful library of games, then why not purchase a premium license of Launchbox for $20 to access Big Box, which is a controller and couch-oriented version of Launchbox. The Launchbox Games database is also available for any user to contribute to as well. Jason, Kirsten, and I, along with the rest of the team, have a lot planned for our community, so if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we're doing a tutorial video every Friday, live developer sessions, Launchbox news, Q&As, and a ton more content in the future. Let us know what you think of RSS and any feedback you may have on it in the comments below. My name is Brad, the link to my channel is also below, and remember, Freaks and Geeks, to play more games, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day!